Hello and welcome to the course entitled A Guide to Leasing Office Space. I'm your instructor, Gabe Burke, and I'm a managing director with Cushman & Wakefield, which is a global real estate solutions firm. This course can be utilized by anyone who will be involved in the process of leasing commercial office space. My goal is to give you a general understanding of the basic process that takes place when your company is seeking new space, which is often referred to as a lease acquisition. This course will help you gain insight into the risks and challenges in this type of project. I will teach you my step-by-step process that will allow you to perform a lease acquisition like an expert. The concepts we will cover in this course are the following: establishing your business goals, defining your requirement, doing market research, analysis, negotiation, and finally, execution. One more thing, this course is not intended for real estate experts. It was designed for those who wish to gain a basic understanding of commercial office space leases, and it was done from the tenant's perspective. It is not intended for building owners. I hope you find it not only informative, but a whole lot of fun. Let's get started. This flowchart represents my step-by-step process, starting with establishing your business goals, then defining your requirement, familiarizing yourself with key leasing concepts, doing market research, conducting site tours, negotiating with letters of intent and requests for proposal, doing analysis, completing a letter of intent, legal review, and finally, executing a lease. As you can see by looking at the flowchart, we will be discussing the process from beginning up to lease execution, but not beyond that. There are important steps after execution, for example, the build-out of the space, furniture setup, and IT installation, and I will comment on those at various times. However, this course does not cover them in detail. I want to point out that the steps in this process don't change for a smaller company versus a larger one. The difference is in how you handle each step. For example, in a small company, the authority for making key decisions may lie with one person, while a larger company may rule by committee or have different teams that need to weigh in on certain issues. As we go through this course, I'll try to offer helpful tips from both points of view. Before we dive into the steps, I should mention that it's imperative to have professional assistance for this type of project. The following is a list of experts that you will likely need to have success. A broker is probably the most fundamental need. He or she will assist you with each step, advise you on critical issues, and provide vital market information. Your broker can also refer you to many other professionals who you'll probably need. It's important to work with someone who has deep experience in your target location. A good attorney is essential to a well-negotiated lease. Many office leases, even for small space, have an incredible amount of nuance that carries hidden risk. I've personally assisted many clients who found themselves in a difficult situation years after signing a lease that was either not reviewed by an attorney or was reviewed by someone who didn't have the right expertise. I think one reason people underestimate the importance of a thorough legal review is that they assume everything will run smoothly. Seeking new office space is generally a time of optimism. Your company is probably doing well and the future looks bright. This can mean that you're not thinking about or concerned with the what-if scenarios. And that's what your attorney is for, to ignore your optimism and consider all the potential problems you might encounter and how to safeguard against those in your lease. I bristle when people complain about the cost of an attorney, even for a small space. I've seen costly mistakes that could easily have been avoided with good legal advice. Your need for an architect often has to do with the size of the space. A small space sometimes doesn't justify the cost of bringing in an architect and might not be necessary because you're rarely making changes that require construction. If it's a larger space, then you will need to carefully plan the design and in many cases execute the build-out. Some of this depends on the deal you strike with the landlord. If the landlord is providing a turnkey solution, then they will probably provide the architect. On the other hand, if the landlord is simply providing a capital contribution and you're responsible for executing the build-out, then you will definitely need an architect. In almost all cases, you will need some type of space planning. If you have an architect, then that firm will provide the space planning services. But if you don't, then you can hire a space planner separately. They are incredibly helpful at planning how you will fit your employees into each space. They also help figure out how much space you need before you start your search. Project management is probably the most underappreciated service that I know of. People often underestimate the complexity of building out a new space, installing furniture and equipment, and then moving to the new office. During that process, there are many different professionals trying to work together, and project managers are the conductors of the orchestra. It doesn't matter how good the players are. If they're not in sync, then it can turn into a big, expensive mess. Furniture is critical to the look, feel, and functionality of your space. It's more expensive to move furniture than most people realize because of the workload required to break it down and set it up in a new location. Therefore, in most cases, you'll want to consider new furniture. More importantly, the people who occupy the space will complain bitterly if they're not happy with the furniture. If you don't believe me, just think about how fussy people can be about what chair they have to sit in. And guess what? I'm one of those people. When we moved offices, I actually put my chair in my car and drove it to our new office because I didn't want to take a chance of suffering with some horrible chair. Unless you planned to not use the internet or send email, you probably need an IT consultant. So find someone good and start discussing what you need. As you can see, I've laid out quite a list. You won't necessarily need every service here because it depends on the size and importance of your project. My recommendation is to start with a broker and go from there.